and welcome to this special edition of Trader Talk TV coming from Canada. Today I've got Kirk McDonald from PubMatic here with me.
Hey, great to be here, Kieran. Thank you so much for inviting us to chat.
Oh, you're welcome, Kirk. And today we're going to talk all things supply side, and a lot of things are happening on the supply side right now, and Kirk's going to go into the weeds with us. So Kirk, talk about your role first of all. Like, you're the president of PubMatic. What does that
Sure,
mean?
absolutely.
What does that mean?
You know, it's a great opportunity. I historically, and you know some of this, historically came from the publishing side, so I've spent most of my career actually as a publisher, and it's very exciting for me to actually be at a company with sort of devoted energy, technology, all of our development around helping publishers deal with the technology required to operate in a programmatized world, a world where they will automate how they actually sell and represent all of their inventory. So that's been really exciting. And for me, I actually run all of the go-to-market operations inside of PubMatic globally.
So there's been a lot of developments on the supply side over the last 12 months. It's been like, it evolves literally every day. So let's talk about some of the subjects that actually are big areas. So transparency is a massive issue right now for both supply and buy side, and the microscope is being placed upon the fees, etc. on that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about measures that a company like yourself takes to help publishers and buyers get more transparency.
Sure. So, you know, we actually think behind the transparency debate is really one of control. Recently, our CEO put an article out, a blog post out that spoke to the fact that really transparency has become a synonymous or a code word for publisher control. There is, I think, some concern among the publishing community, even in the industry, in understanding, am I getting what I paid for on the buy side, and from the sell side, am I truly selling and representing my inventory the best way possible? And in that, we found that publishers are looking to have a higher degree of control over how the ad decisions get made on their property. Who sees what ad, so they protect consumer experience. More importantly, who gets to buy and access their inventory at a price that they think is reasonable for that inventory. So to the degree that they're able to do that, that is important. In the middle of that is a fee conversation, which starts saying, is there a fair exchange for the technology I'm using, and am I really the one in control of the decisions on my property? And that's where we think the fee part of this has come up, because there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about, you know, am I paying for something that's benefiting the buyer, or am I paying for something that's benefiting these exchange models, or am I paying for technology when technology is working on my behalf?
Yeah. So you think the conversation shifted to a positive place in the minute in terms of the fee stuff, because obviously the hidden fees is a big issue for a lot of the publishers and buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a conflation. I like to use at least one decent sized word.
Conflation,
conflation of issues on the publisher side and within the industry. The reality is that as long as the publisher is aware of what they're paying for, I believe that they're very comfortable. This idea that there's a tax on ad tech, or some unfair pay for something that there is no gain or proper exchange for, I think is really just that. There's a lot of noise in the entire ecosystem. Most companies are operating between a 20 to 25% fee or take rate, some companies call it, take rate off of the transactions that are going between buyers and sellers. And almost everyone, the public companies, are trading in that place. That are all part of
Google
this.
make 30%.
Google
margin.
does 30% margin.
Nobody flinches an eyelid at that. Like, you know, buy side and sell side. So
buy side and sell side. And here's the thing: there is a comfort with that exchange, that the value is there. I think ad tech, all of the players in ad tech and martech would do really well for themselves to actually focus on raising the value that they return to their customer, the publisher or the buyer, making sure that reports are as qualified as they say they are, making sure that they're validated the inventory. We do a lot with collections on behalf of our publishers to make sure that all the money that they've sold is actually something they get. There's a logic, algorithm logic that is high value. It actually helps drive up the value of the impressions they've sold. I don't know that we spend enough time talking about that part of the value exchange, and we conflate all of these issues. So we've been transparent with our fees. Our publisher contracts are very clear, and we recently launched a campaign, Let's Be Clear.
Let's be clear.
Let's be clear. Early this year, the IAB launched an effort called Be Clear Now, and we liked it a lot. And we do feel like this is an important time for companies like us to start telling our publishers, telling our partners, let's be clear.
This helps a company like yourself to be more transparent? Like, it helps in the long run, because obviously there's a lot of legal stuff going on in the industry. But do you think that being more forthright with the publishers is going to help you as a business as well?
Absolutely. The industry is not going to grow until the anxiety associated with these concerns go away. And the best way for them to go away, we thought, was let's literally put it out there for all those that are saying, hey, look, come in the water, but don't mind you, there's a shark underneath it. That needs to go away. We need to say, look, the water is clear. Look all the way through. There's nothing here that is to be worrisome about. So we've prided ourselves on being very transparent in our process since the start of the business. This campaign really, which is a global campaign, is intended to say, look, if there's a question, ask us. Ask us publicly, ask us on camera, ask us in the press, but we're very comfortable sharing that. And like I said, there are enough public companies out now with data that says that take rates or fee rates are somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25%. We believe that that's a sustainable
you still have to run a business here. You're doing a service, so let's shift the gears here. Obviously, the supply side business this year has completely changed. The SSP business, from like the narrative was, getting into the ad server, into the waterfall. Now it's shifted towards header bidding, right? And we've had client side, and now we have server side. So just give us a sort of an overview of where you guys are in that. I mean, do you have a wrapper? Are you working at server side? Are you still at the client side? So and obviously it's such a complicated area, and obviously necessary given DFP hasn't evolved at all as a piece of technology in the last 10 years. But how do you sort of talk to your publishers, and how do you work with them around that?
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the sort of the emergence of sort of header strategies, and I'll say header strategies because for PubMatic, we've actually had header technology since 2012. So we've had a way for publishers to do reverse auctions, right? Which is simply finding a way to turn the auction dynamic or bring the auction decisioning to the publisher's side, where they actually have a higher degree of sort of visibility and more data to look at in terms of all of the bids coming in on their inventory. So the tech's been there, the strategies and the naming of it over the last year and a half has been really clear, and everyone's doing header bidding. So I think it's been great for publishers in that regard. As we move to sort of server to server or server side header bidding, I think again, this is gonna shift the dynamics in terms of where all that information flows and who finally makes the decision.
So do you think that's a decision to be made on the publisher side? I mean, are we talking about just bringing more demand in and doing almost like a holistic auction? I know you guys have an ad server, but is it the first step to that? Because when I look at header bidding, I think, when I look at the ad server like DFP, you've got the waterfall, which is an inefficient way of managing yield within the ad server, and the header is the first step to a universal auction, effectively.
Yeah, a universal auction, and an auction in which the publisher is now controlling. So the publishers, think of it this way, each individual publisher will have their own SSP, in other words, is the best way to think of it. And publishers now are, they've staffed up and educated themselves enough to actually take fully advantage of this. The technology is there. So we've launched OpenWrap, which is our solution, which is the first sort of hybrid client-side and server-side solution. It works with Prebid, which AppNexus's Prebid, which has gotten almost such widespread adoption. We thought it was an important partnership to make sure that we put out there.
So yours is an open source too, is it?
And it's open source as well. This is, again, the ultimate transparency. You can go in and build on it, customize for yourself. You can go in and see where everything is going, and we're giving the publisher here are the keys to the helicopter, right?
Yeah.
Here's everything you need to get from
Cannes
to Nice,
Yeah,
right? So, and I don't want to make so much light of it that it seems that we're treating it trivially. We do believe that publishers have to control and own their strategy. Every publisher's situation is unique in terms of inventory management, the balance between display and growing mobile inventory, their video inventory. They want to actually make pricing and packaging a strategic decision in the relationships they have. To keep up with dynamic pricing and packaging, you have to be the controller of access to your impressions, and that's best managed through what we think is a solution like OpenWrap.
And do you think that header bidding has made a material effect on publisher revenue? Do you think it's like, I mean, I've seen 20-30% lifts in revenue. Is that actually real, or is it?
So we have tons of case examples at this point where publishers have actually employed this. It has actually created, I think, a fairer competition for the impression than they've had to experience in the past. Ultimately, with their knowledge of their editorial roadmaps, so what's coming down the pike, they can actually now anticipate what will be spikes of opportunity and manage this tension around interest in their impressions in such a way that they're seeing really strong yield. Now, we are participating with a lot of our publishers in supporting that, both in sort of helping them do some setup around how they want to package their inventory in the system. And others are really sophisticated about this. And like I said, I think it's changed the landscape dramatically and really balanced the relationship between the buyers and sellers.
And bringing it server side, does that make it, does that challenge the proposition in any way at all, or how does that? Does it just make? Is it more of a latency thing? Is it more control, or why bring it server side?
So I think server side actually is this evolution of it again, and with that, you are going to actually have a situation where less data will be able to be passed to the publisher, but it will reduce latency. I think in a very dramatic way, and as long as the publishers have made sort of thoughtful decisions about choosing partners that are working on their behalf. And by me saying working on their behalf, again, they feel very comfortable with the first part of this conversation, that the contractual relationship around fees is clear. We know how we're working with you. I think actually it's an advantage for the publisher. I think you've nailed it earlier on too as well, which is this evolved itself to maybe some holistic or programmatic ad serving.
I'm about to ask that as well, just jumping into that. I mean, if you think about it, why don't we just build an ad server that can do this? I mean, I know you guys have an ad server, so are you one of these companies that are sort of not hedging their bets, but header is a good thing, but ultimately the ad server is where all the magic happens, basically?
So we decided to start hedging that back now nearly 4 years back when we first acquired a mobile ad server and started building as soon as we got it, really continuing developing and innovating, and we launched our unified ad serving platform. We completely believe that we are simply evolving our way to a programmatic ad server that is going to do holistic inventory management and yield, all built into the ad server. This is where the industry will evolve.
Do you think this is like header is the baby steps towards
header?
That sort of that future, basically.
So we think we absolutely do. We're climbing the ladder, and we're climbing the ladder as publishers are getting
more sophisticated,
and their confidence is getting there, right? So they've had a confidence concern around everything ad tech for the longest time, maybe even a confidence crisis at some point. That concern is now going away. They're getting confident about what they do in ad tech, and they're going to realize that the opportunity to look at a holistic ad server that deals with and was built for the programmatic period where automation of buying and selling is understood. With all due respect to the sort of install base of ad serving, most of that install base was built before there was the need for real-time bidding and real-time buying and selling, right? So an ad server that takes that factor in and has built that into its consideration, also an understanding of multiple formats across video, native mobile, is really where this is evolving to. So we think header bidding evolved into wrappers. OpenWrap allows for so much customization, but ultimately we think a unified approach to ad serving is there. And again, the name of our ad serving product Unified Ad Server, is what we think happens next.
So before I jump into a global question, but I want to talk about the buy side. I mean, what are you seeing from them around the whole header? I hear different stories. I hear that the cost of buying has gone up because there's so many ways to buy via header.
Yeah.
I mean, how are they approaching this, and do you think they're coming along with this as well? Because at the minute there's a lot of direct demand sources like Criteo and Amazon and Facebook, but then all the agencies are saying, well, our DSPs costs have gone up because we've just seen this impression and all these
multiple
different
times. Yeah. So I have not seen a consistent strategy yet emerge, but I am seeing clear indication that strategies are emerging. Now, that the strategies may vary based on the players, in that we've seen on the buy side different approaches from all the agency holding companies, everything from branded and launched exchange models that were actually running arbitrage businesses to the other end of the spectrum, which is that they're not going to have any type of business like that inside the agency holding group. And I think that's causing an emergence of strategies that vary from conversations around how do we actually make sure they manage bid reduction and have quicker path to direct relationships with direct publishers, all the way through really on the buy side looking for sort of trusted on-ramps, so trusted supply sources that are almost exclusive or preferred to the agency group to allow them to access supply. Their bigger concerns really have, from my standpoint, been about fraud. So they want to make sure that what they buy is real. And that has been the biggest sort of conversation that I think I'm having on the buy side.
A thing like the ads.text, the new initiative. Are you a big believer now? You think that's a good initiative?
Yeah, so absolutely. And listen, remember, I'm an IAB board member, so I believe the standards bodies have really stepped it up, and again, that's why I said I qualified. I'm an IAB board member, so I don't want to always sound like an ad for what they've done, but I do think under Randall's leadership, the individual groups, the group around tag certification, MRC compliance and tag compliance, as well as this latest initiative, really all are the things that are beginning to get the concern and crisis out of the industry, get all of that fear or the conflation of sort of concerns that this is a murky, dark place. So we're a big supporter of all of those things. Again, on our way to making sure that we want to see everyone SAG certified. We want trusted partners playing with trusted partners.
It'd be amiss of me now, given your global role, to not talk about some of the regions you work in. We've got ATS Singapore coming up in 2 weeks. So let's talk about sort of the APAC market. I mean, I spoke to one of your publisher partners in India, for instance, and it's a very interesting market. There's different dynamics going on in that market. Like, so let's talk about sort of what you're seeing. Like in India, for instance, is a very interesting market because you literally told me there's no demand in the market. So how do you push those conversations forward? How are you? I mean, you've got a fantastic CEO in APAC, Jason Barnes, but how do you push those conversations forward, basically?
So a lot of it is again making sure that we treat each market individually. I mean, it's sort of the first lesson learned about going international, which is that you don't copy and paste a strategy from one market to the next. India is a really great opportunity for us. Now, the fact that a large part of our company and an engineering and development team is based in India has helped us, we think, to really understand the market, its culture, how that publishing community really thinks about growing. We've also got a really strong country manager there, a guy named Sudipto. He's done well to bring what we've termed our Pub Academy events into market, a lot of education series.
Still a lot of education in those markets.
A lot of education series, and the publishers really thinking about acting in unison to avoid some of the concerns. And these things go as formal as in Japan. We launched a Japan Publisher Alliance group called JPAT. Again, Jason Barnes' leadership across this region has been really powerful for us. So in some markets, it's as deep as a publisher alliance for both Japan and in India.
And your strategy does seem to change from market to market, because obviously you did a big deal in Sweden or
there you go.
Nordics. Do you think the mindset different publishers at a different level?
Mindset of publishers are at a different level. Again, whether it's in APAC, Peter Barry down in Australia, or you just mentioned the things that we're doing in the Nordics with a guy named Jonas Olsen. Really proud of the work he's done there as well. There's some markets need education, some markets are so sophisticated in their tech understanding that we actually need to jump ahead.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the Nordics market, a lot of those publishers have skipped over some of the mistakes of large markets like the US and simply said, look, we're gonna come and learn, and we're not gonna bother making the mistakes that you made over the last 5 years, and we're going to jump ahead. So they are actually further evolved in their thinking.
And do you think maybe the fact that Google doesn't have a stranglehold over those markets, that you're able to have more I hate to say this to the American publishers, but more grown-up conversations effectively?
Yeah, well, asking Americans to have grown-up conversations these days is not an insult. We get it, but and that was not meant to be political. If it was taken that way.
It's very hard not to be political these days.
Exactly. So yes, you've just nailed it. So in markets like that, there's been a readiness to look at the ad serving solution.
Yeah.
So our unified ad service solution, sort of our success stories and the case studies we have are from regions like this that are, as they're at this sort of comfort level, they have not had the strong dependency or stranglehold by Google, are experimenting with full-on our unified ad serving product, and in many regards are further ahead now in terms of their strategy execution compared to the US markets.
So what are we going to see? What are we going to see from PubMatic in the next couple of months? Then what's the different ground over the next 6 to 12 months?
It's great. So we're excited coming off of last year. Last year's business allowed us to realize we wanted to do more with fewer or more with less. And this went as far as, let's actually reduce the number of publishers we're working with. Let's focus on the top end of the market. Let's work with premium publishers. Let's actually concentrate on going deeper with their business. That has worked out well. Really one of our strongest years ever from a publisher standpoint. Our publishers did better last year than probably ever before, and as a result, PubMatic did one of its best year. The rest of this year is this Let's Be Clear campaign is a conversation we're opening up with our publishing and buy side. We've spent a lot more time over the start of this year investing in making sure we also understand what are the buyers looking for as the world has changed ahead of bidding. So look for us to actually get closer to the buy side on behalf of our publishing partners because we've gotten deep in their business. We think the big evolution is brand advertising coming online. It has raised the accountability on every impression. It has raised the standards on us being grown-ups. It's raised the standards really on us saying, look, here's measurability in a way that is acceptable, that we can understand the true value of any impression, both in real time and over time. So look for us to continue doing things down that path. From a product standpoint, mobile continues to be a focus. In-app is a really important part, but video really is probably the leading charge of what we do right now. It's fastest growing, both mobile video and video on the platform. Not a lot of people know that nearly 80% of our impressions today are already mobile impressions. Video continues to grow as a really big part of our mobile strategy.
Is mobile video big then? Is it like is it growing a clip?
It's growing at a dramatically faster clip than display for sure. And I don't say the display is going down, but display is growing. It's just not growing as fast as mobile and video. So those will be the focus areas from a product standpoint. And the team is just looking to try to dial up our consultancy with our top clients and fix any gaps in service that we've had in the past and make sure that we're there as partners going forward.
Kirk, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man.
Darren, thank you so much. It's great to have the conversation and not a bad backdrop to do it in Cannes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really good shot.
And that was Trader Talk TV, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.